All right, it is 12 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Heidi Urbina. I'm Communications Coordinator at Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest. I'm just going to walk you through a little bit about how this will work today. This is a webinar instead of a Zoom meeting, so you are automatically muted and your video is off. You can participate in any of these ways. You can chat with us in the chat box. You can raise your hand if there's something you want to say out loud. Lets us know that you'd like to share. And there's a Q&A portion as well. So feel free to write questions at any time throughout the webinar, and we will get to them at the end of our time together this morning, or afternoon, I suppose now. The Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest, we started in 1970, and we've been resettling refugees since 1975. And we actually have four main areas that we provide services. We have aging and disability services, children and family, emergency services, and then what you're here for today, refugee and immigration services. So we serve refugees, asylum seekers, and parolees in both Phoenix and Tucson. And our mission is that we stabilize people during crisis and transition, build a foundation where people can thrive and preserve dignity and respect for the most vulnerable. So I am so excited to have you all here today and to introduce you to our panelists. We've got Sarah Erie, who's our Associate Director of Refugee and Immigration Services, Ann Petty, the Resettlement Director and Program Manager in Tucson, Charlotte Schertz, our Faith and Community Engagement Coordinator, and Susan Massoud, Faith and Community Engagement Specialist in Phoenix. So I'll go ahead and turn you over to Ann. Or sorry, not to Ann, to Sarah. Sarah, there you are.
Here I am. I started talking without turning on my camera and my microphone. How often do we do that? We've been Zooming for a couple of years and I still forget to do that. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon now. And I appreciate everyone being here to talk with us and to learn about the Afghan parolees who are arriving in our community. And we have a lot to share today, so I'll just go ahead and get right to it. As of November 2nd in Phoenix, we have welcomed 7 families and 5 single adults for a total of 12 cases and 38 people. And then Ann is going to give an update on the Tucson arrivals.
Yes, hi everyone. So in Tucson so far, we have resettled a total of 4 families and 5 single cases, a total of 9 cases and 33 people so far in Tucson.
And we just had a meeting with our national affiliate yesterday. So this information is the most updated available. And right now we have about 50,000 people on 8 military bases, and we have 20,000 people on what they call lily pads, and those are bases that are not inside the United States. We were notified yesterday that the timetable for welcoming the Afghan arrivals in Phoenix is going to be expedited. Originally, we were going to be welcoming people through March 31st, but they moved it up and they would like to have the parolees off the military bases as soon as possible. And so we are expected to welcome people from now through the end of December. And it can go into January, but their preference is that everyone is resettled by the end of December. They won't most likely resettle people on Christmas week. And so that gives us about 7 weeks to bring in the full number of our capacity. The other thing is just this morning, our capacity was increased from 300 people to 350 people. So between now and the end of December, we're going to welcome 350 people, and that's about 50 people a week. We hope that it's spaced out like that. And so that's an update. It means that things are going to get really, really busy here very quickly. And Anne, do you have an update about if your capacity has changed, and also about what you can expect for arrivals in the next 7 weeks?
Yeah, so similar to what Sarah said, we've heard the same timeline as well, that they are hoping. I think that's probably true across the country, that they're hoping to get the majority of Afghans off of the bases and to their resettlement destinations by the end of the year. Our current capacity is what we have said that we can resettle as 150. It had started out at 60, and then we raised it to 100, and now we're up to 150. So also, it's not as much as in Phoenix, but our office is smaller, so it's still quite a lot to resettle between now and the end of the year. So we have been receiving probably anywhere from 10 to 15 arrivals a week, and I think that's definitely going to be increasing. The last point, out migration on there, Sarah hasn't addressed that yet, but that's when a refugee family or individual comes to the location where they're assigned, and they decide to move to another location. And they are free to move. They're not forced to stay in the location that they're assigned. However, the benefits that they get and the services that they get are reduced if they move to they become a secondary migrant if they move to another location. So we have certainly been encouraging those who are sent here to Tucson to stay, at least to stay for a while, try it out and kind of get settled. Although we did hear from our national agency that a majority of Afghans were wanting to go to 4 states, which are California, Washington State, Texas, and Virginia. Now we've heard that those locations, I'm not sure of all the reasons for that, but I have heard that the resettlement agencies in those locations are really overwhelmed. So they're really trying to encourage people to stay in the locations they're sent to. So far, we have of our 9 cases, we have had 2 families that have decided to outmigrate. One to go to California and one to Texas. The others are planning to stay here in Arizona. So I think that's something both in Phoenix and in Tucson that we will see, that some of the people who arrive may go to another site, but we're hopeful that the majority will stay and make their home here in Tucson, and we're committed to giving them the best possible service when they arrive, so that they have the incentive to do that in the best welcome.
Thank you, Anne. Very good. Also, another point that they brought up was that there are many medically fragile people that need to be immediately moved. And so those cases will arrive by November 15th. And we don't really know at this point how many of those cases will come to Phoenix. But it just is something that they made us aware of. And I would like to add to what Anne had to say about the increased capacity and the increased flow. We are fully staffed, and so there's been a lot of resources that have been put into play to assist us to resettle people. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but I just wanted to say, as far as staffing is concerned, that we feel pretty confident that we will be able to handle this, this capacity number. And also the staff that we have that usually is resettling our regular clientele of refugees will also be utilized for the APA program over the next 7 weeks. It looks like that PRM is going to pause refugee arrivals for the next 7 weeks so that we don't become overwhelmed. And that's just really great coordination and support from the federal government. Really appreciate that. Okay, next slide. So the services that we're able to give, I think the important update is that DES is coming through with our state support. So that means access and food stamps are going to be available in days, not weeks. They're working right now on the administrative side of getting that done. And so that's really good, because some of you who may have been working with the resettlement agencies know that food is such an issue from the beginning, because most of these people have arrived with nothing. They have zero money. And so they are completely dependent on us until they begin working. And so making sure everybody has enough to eat is obviously the next most important thing to housing. And so knowing that they will quickly get food stamps is is really great. And then in addition to that, we've had a couple of sources of emergency housing funding, and that's important because the housing prices are very elevated right now, as everyone knows. And so the money that's sent per capita through the APA program may not be enough to cover housing for long enough while we're helping people to find jobs and get their first paychecks and into the other programs such as matching grants. So these extra funds for emergency housing are really needed, and they are now available to us. Also, there is a grant called Preferred Communities, and I know that a lot of people have been buzzing about this on the internet and Facebook, and I've seen so many posts about that. And so this is another important source of funding where we can really help these individuals get the things that they need to settle in quickly and to feel like they understand how to cook and feed their families and have the appliances they're used to, and really just begin to settle in and heal from the traumatic experience of being evacuated. Anne, do you want to add anything about services?
I think you covered it. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So now I just want to talk a little bit, the main focus of this series after we've done the updates is to talk a little bit about our cultural information with working with the Afghan community. And so I want to begin that conversation with an exercise of comparing and contrasting the difference between individualism and collectivism, because our culture in America is an individualist culture. These are the values that we have, that we promote, that we inculcate into our children. Some of these values are so deeply embedded in who we are, we think it's just universal. But of course, it isn't. And collectivism is the type of culture that the Afghan people have. And not only Afghan people, but many people around the world are really collectivists. And this is a list of their value system that is inculcated and internalized. And they feel that this is the way it is everywhere. And so you can see very quickly that there are points where our two cultures clash. And we may not be prepared for that clash because of the depth of internalization of our values. We may not even be aware that this is something that other people do not believe. So let's just consider this for a minute. For an individual, someone from an individualist culture, our value is to foster independence and individual achievement. We promote self-expression, individual thinking, and personal choice. We value egalitarian relationships, and we are very flexible in our roles, which means that just because someone is in one role one day doesn't mean they can't change another day. We also value private property and individual ownership. There's a couple of other things I want to point out that aren't on this slide. Individualist cultures value tasks, time, And they value these things many times over relationships. So in other words, if a task isn't completed on time, then we may become angry with someone about that. Or if someone keeps us waiting for an appointment, we may internalize that to mean that they don't respect us because they didn't value our time. So let's look at how collectivist cultures view some of these same things. So collectivist cultures foster interdependence and group success. They promote adherence to norms, respect for authority, elders, and group consensus. They associate and value stable hierarchical roles that are dependent on gender, family background, and age. And this is very important to understand because value in the culture is assigned by these types of hierarchies, and they're immutable. They don't change. In collective cultures, they value shared property and group ownership. In a collective culture, relationships are valued over tasks and over time. So in one situation, I'm going to use that situation where a time commitment wasn't kept. The individualist will feel disrespected because they didn't have their time valued, and they may get angry. And the collectivist will feel disrespected because someone is angry with them. And for no reason, because the time is not something that is necessarily valued. But if the person is older, or if the person is of the gender that has authority, or if they come from a particular family back in Afghanistan, and they're spoken to in a way that they feel is disrespectful, it can be very offensive. And so I hope this is just a very beginning. My wish would be anyone who really wants to develop relationships and work with us to resettle Afghan people will do some more research on your own. And this is just a very beginning, and to really study this, this difference between our culture of individualism and the collective cultures, not only from Afghanistan, but so many of our refugee clients come from collective cultures. So I appreciate taking a minute to introduce that topic. And now I'm going to turn it over to Susan Masood, who is our faith and community engagement specialist in Phoenix. And she is from Afghanistan, and she has prepared some information about Afghanistan that will help us to understand the people that are becoming our neighbors. I'll turn it over to Susan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suzanne Masood. I'm originally from Afghanistan. I've been working with LSS for the last month and a half, and been in the United States for 21 years. So basically, I am an Afghan-American citizen. Glad to be here with you all. I would love just to share some Afghan culture and their beliefs. This is started with the most important part of being an Afghan, which is being very hospitable. Afghan people are very hospitable, and it is very important and famous rules in the country, culture, and tradition. And is also viewed as a religious obligations. Everyone must be ready to give daily bread to his neighbor, sharing a meal and even a cup of tea indicates a relationship and a friendship between people back in Afghanistan and also in here. Regarding their food, while we are talking about hospitality, of course, the first thing that comes is their food. Food is very delicious and tasty and spicy, I should say. We use halal food. Halal is certainly an Islamic value and also a regulation for Muslims to consume only what it is permitted by Islam. Halal food requires that Allah's name is invoked at the time that animal is killed. Lamb, beef, goat, chicken, or halal, as long as Muslim kills them and offers prayers on them while they be killed. Greetings. While you will be greeted by Afghans, we say hello. Afghan people say assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. Women hug and kisses 3 times faces, and men put the right hand side on their heart and nod their head slightly down to show respect. Most Muslim women will not shake hands or hug men. It is forbidden in Islam, and we respect that part. Tradition clothing in Afghanistan is loose fitting and conservative. Women expected to wear clothes that honor their modesty and are not revealing their body. Handshake in Afghanistan, before taking, while we are coming to taking pictures, yes. Before taking pictures with Afghan women, we need to ask them. Some Afghan women will taking pictures or forbidden in Islam. And also we respect that part. And it says Afghan, not Afghanis. There is 2 parts. Afghan, we call them to a person that she is from Afghanistan, she is Afghan, I am Afghan. But when we say Afghanis or Afghani, it goes to the item or currency of money back for Afghanistan, which we call them for food, for clothes, for items as Afghani, like Afghani rag, Afghani furniture, Afghani food. But when it comes to proper term for a person from that land of Afghanistan, it just calls Afghan. I'll be here for more if we do have any questions, and I will be here to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Could you talk some about inviting Afghans to American holidays? I see that on the list there too.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that part. Yes, as we said, we are very hospitable people. We love that Afghans should come to sit with us, joining on the table and sharing our meal with us. But since in the condition that they are coming in here during the holidays, we receive a lot of arrivals. For some Afghans, it's a little bit early to invite them being part of our holidays or celebrate the American holidays with us. We just respect that part too. We would like just to give them some time to get used to that and adopt the new culture and tradition of being an American. But later on, I'm pretty much sure that it shouldn't have any problems to join and celebrate the beautiful holidays of American, as I and my family will always do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome, Saidi.
All right. I think we're on to Charlotte.
Sure. Yes. Co-sponsorship update. So first, thanks, Susan. I think we're so grateful. It's so valuable to have somebody who understands the culture of people from Afghanistan that we're going to receive. So thank you for sharing that, just so that we make sure that we do things that make our clients and our neighbors comfortable. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let me do a co-sponsorship update. I know that a lot of you who either are watching this today or will watch the recording have been inquiring about co-sponsoring Afghan families who are arriving. And for those of you who don't know, co-sponsorship is where you are matched to a family and you help them, welcome them in the United States and help them sort of acclimate to the new culture and life in the United States and create a friendship relationship with them. That's what co-sponsorship is about. So a lot of individuals have contacted us, more than I have ever seen in the 2 or 3 years I've been around. And so at the moment, we have had to pause and not take any more co-sponsors. What we are happy to do is to put you on a waiting list if you're willing to wait until we have the capacity and time to train and match new groups. So if you are happy to wait, we're happy to do that. In the meantime, while we are waiting, while you might be waiting to be trained and to be contacted to get matched to a family, there are many other ways that you can get involved with Afghan evacuees, but also with our refugees and asylum seeker families who are here and are still in need of support. So of course, Christmas is coming up, so you can participate in our Christmas drive, which I will be launching next week. If you're not on our newsletter, please put that in the chat and I'll be happy to add you to it so you receive that when I send it out next week. And what you can do for Christmas is 2 things. You can either buy and wrap gifts for a family or an individual to be matched to them. You don't have the finances to buy gifts, that's fine. You can also participate in delivering Christmas gifts. 2 options here for you. The other thing that you can do that you can always use our partners at Gathering Humanity, who set apartments for most of our arrivals, and they're really experts in that area in set apartments and providing the initial hot meal and the initial of food. So that's something that they're interested in doing for real arrivals at Phoenix. We'd be happy to put in with these partners. The other thing that you can do is you can contribute to our Refugee Resettlement Essentials wish list, which is an Amazon wish list. Again, if you're interested, please let us know. We can put the link in the chat. We will, it will take you directly to that wish list where you can buy household items. And those will be items that you can, that will be put into the apartments of the Afghan evacuees and the refugees to furnish their apartments. I think I can read in the chat, somebody is saying that my audio is breaking up. Is it breaking up a lot so that you can't hear me?
It was for a moment there, Charlotte. If you would repeat a little bit about Gathering Humanity and Christmas, just briefly.
Yes, okay. Christmas coming up. You can buy gifts or participate in the delivery. I'll make it quick. So if you're interested in that, please put it in the chat so I can provide the details. And then setting up apartments, you can work with our partners at Gathering Humanity, where you would set up apartments or provide food for all newly arrived Afghan evacuees at that point. Okay, the next 2 things to do is to participate in our hygiene pack. Those are travel size hygiene packs that we would like to provide to our clients when they receive the cultural orientation about hygiene in the United States, and having products for them to recognize is really useful. So we are happy to put this together. And then we always need snack packs for our asylum seekers who are traveling to their final destination in the United States and need support with food and water on their way there. Okay, is my audio okay now?
You might want to try turning off your camera. It just seems like your connection's a little, is struggling a little bit.
Okay, tell me if that's better. And if it's not, I'm happy to provide additional information.
You sound good.
Sarah can, okay, I sound good. Okay, great. Or Sarah can also take over how completely. So, if you want to go to the next slide for one last way to get involved, which is through our advocacy. Okay, so another way to get involved is for you to support the Afghan Adjustment Act. So just go back a tiny bit and provide a little bit of context. As we have just talked about, we have over 50,000 at-risk Afghans who have been arriving and will be arriving into the United States under humanitarian parole. As we have talked about in the past, in our previous webinar, humanitarian parole is not a pathway to permanent status. It only provides temporary status for up to 2 years. This means that at the moment, Afghan parolees are finding themselves essentially in legal uncertainty because they didn't arrive as SIV holders, which are the individuals who help the US military, and they did not arrive technically as refugees through our refugee program. And so what the Afghan Adjustment Act would do, and what we are advocating for to Congress, is that it would allow these Afghan parolees to apply for lawful permanent resident status, essentially for a green card after 1 year. So it would give them the same rights as SIVs and refugees. And really the thought behind this is that virtually all of the Afghans arriving via humanitarian parole need the legal definition of a refugee and some of them of an SIV. And so rather than really punishing them for being evacuated in the way that they were, the act would give them a chance to again become lawful permanent residents. And another point that I want to just discuss for a minute about this legislation is that it would cover at-risk Afghans who were recently paroled in, so from July 1st, 2021, but all the way to July 1st, 2025. So this would allow the thousands of at-risk Afghans who are currently outside of the United States, whether they still reside in Afghanistan or in third countries, to also qualify for this permanent status if they could make it to the United States. And the other point about this piece of legislation that's important to understand is that without the Afghan Adjustment Act, the evacuees that we are receiving will have to find an immigration solution to remain in the United States. And that means that most likely the only thing they will be eligible for is asylum. I'm sure a lot of you understand that the current asylum backlog is tremendous. There are 400,000 asylum cases pending, and then there is a general immigration backlog of 1.4 million cases. This means that if we add on top of that these tens of thousands of asylum cases to the process, it will further backlog the process. It will take years for these individuals to potentially obtain asylum, and it would also require additional government resources. The one thing to know about seeking asylum, is that it requires documentation. And as some of you may have seen on TV or heard, a lot of the individuals that made it onto evacuation planes were forced to destroy important documentation in order to avoid Taliban violence when they were evacuated. I personally remember speaking to some of these individuals, and a lot of them were burning their documentation because they were very afraid. Also, some of them had the US Embassy in Kabul destroy their documentation as the city failed to protect their safety. It would make asylum even more difficult and increase the likelihood of courts being overwhelmed. And so the bottom line is that the Afghan Adjustment Act would provide fundamental fairness to Afghan families who escaped violence, and it would also save precious government resources. And so we are asking Congress to act and to support, to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act. And we'll hope you'll do the same, that you'll contact your members of Congress to ask them to support the Afghan Adjustment Act. If you know who your members of Congress are, you can already email them and just ask them to do that. You can explain to them why, but you don't have to. And also, if you're interested in supporting that advocacy piece, please put your information in the chat and we'll be happy to add you to our advocacy alert, so that when we send the next one out, you can do that directly through our alert. Okay, hopefully all of that came through. If you have questions, please let me know. Thank you.
All right, we are to the question portion of our webinar. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If you have questions, please go ahead and write them in the chat. I see somebody let us know they would like to help with advocacy. Thank you. We will get you added to the list. We've had a few questions come in so far. One was, is the pause on co-sponsorship for Tucson as well? Anne, would you be able to take that?
Yeah, no, we don't currently have a pause on co-sponsorship. That I know we have had quite a few people express interest, so it may take a little bit of time to get through the process and actually be able to co-sponsor a family, but we still are accepting co-sponsors for people who are interested in that.
Thank you. All right, this is a question for Charlotte. Do you need individual letters of advocacy, petitions signed, or both?
We are open to anything. This is a very new piece of legislation, so we will be participating with Connie and other members of our advocacy team in a couple of dedicated days on that next week. But if you are interested in putting together letters, please contact me, because that's something that I think would be very valuable, and I'd like to work with you on that. So yes, please put your information in the chat so we can talk about that together.
Great. And do you have any key sources for seeking additional information about advocacy, Charlotte?
What do you mean?
So I'm thinking, like, are there news sources you use, websites that you use to find out information about advocacy?
Sure. So we rely very much on our national partner, LIRS, Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, and they have a really fantastic advocacy team. So I would recommend that you go on their website. I think it's just lirs.org, and you can sign up for their advocacy alert. It's very clear on the top of the website, and they will send you all of the latest updates and latest advocacy efforts that they are working on. That's what I would recommend.
Fabulous. And I just put, oops, let me relink that. I just put in to the chat the link for LIRS's website, and I'm going to put in our own website here so that you can go on there, and the people that wrote your name in the chat, I'll go ahead and sign you up myself. But if you'd like to sign up otherwise, you can go to that link on our website. You can share that with people, and we'll put that and the link to sign up for refugee emails in our follow-up email after this webinar today. Are there any other questions for anyone? I see a new one just came in. What are some opportunities with your organization or others for community members to get more involved, including volunteering? Who would like to take that one?
I can answer some of that.
Thanks, Sarah.
I think that one of the things that we're learning about this population is that they need time to settle. And because they're coming in so rapidly, a lot of, and there are many things that they have to do within the first couple of weeks of arrival that does require appointments and travel, and so this is one of the reasons why we in Phoenix have paused co-sponsorship, because we want to give people a chance to fulfill all the obligations of their parole status. If these things are not accomplished within a certain time period, then they lose their legal status. And so this is very important. And then many of the people that are coming have US ties, which means they have family members or friends that they know here. In Phoenix, we've also had a very strong outpouring of support from the Afghan community. And so as we're prioritizing services to these families, what we're saying is we want to have them get their service criteria met first. We want to give their family members, friends, and Afghan community a chance to welcome them and help them to understand where they are, and also to remind you that the people that are coming, not only have they been through an unbelievably traumatic experience, it's not just the evacuation, but living on the Army base has not been easy. But they have all left family members behind that are in daily danger from the Taliban. And so they're very fragile people right now. So we want them to be cared for in a way that's going to reduce their trauma and help them to relax. And so that's why we're pausing on the overwhelming support of Americans, because we've also had this great outpouring. Oh, we want to meet them, we want to greet them, we want to let them know that we welcome them here, and there will be so much time for that. The resettlement period for Afghan parolees is only 90 days. And so our goal is that within the 90 days that we have a match to a family that may need some extra support, and that would probably start later in that time period than right at the beginning. I know that for people who've co-sponsored refugees, you're used to meeting at the airport and getting started right away, but this situation is a little bit different. And so we want to be very sensitive to their needs and not overwhelm them. And also we have to be cognizant not to overwhelm our staff with all of the coordination that it takes to facilitate these relationships. So we're thinking we want to give people about 30 days before we begin to assess and match them with a co-sponsorship family. So please, the other ways that you're helping, providing food, the apartment setups, all of the donations, learning. If you're someone that thinks they want to co-sponsor a family, if you could take 30 days to really study Afghan culture and really learn about who the people are and kind of what they've been through, and try to orient yourself, that would be great. And then after about 30 days, we'll begin to that matching process.
Thank you, Sarah. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to that? All right, great. And I saw another question come in that somebody wanted the link for the Amazon wish list. So that I just put that in the chat there. And if you notice, I put the smile.amazon.com link, so you can select Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest as your preferred charity. So I'll also get a little donation from Amazon in addition to the gift from the wish list. So that's another fun way that you can support us without having to do too much. I don't see any more questions coming in. Is there anything else that anybody on the webinar would like to share?
I'd just like to add, thank you all very much for your interest and for your support. This has been, again, it's been really wonderful to watch the staff at Lutheran Social Services just step into this and simply say, okay, what do we need to do to make this happen? And I just so appreciate the work that all of the folks that you're seeing here on the panel are doing. Sarah and Susan coming on to do this, Heidi arranging all this. It's just been an amazing experience. And I know many of you that are listening today and are going to maybe watching this later, receiving a recording, that you are people of faith. And I would just also ask you to keep us and keep these folks in prayer. I think Sarah mentioned that most of these people that are here have family members that did not leave Afghanistan, family members that are still in danger. And I think as joyous as it is, to excited as we might be to meet these people, as Sarah said, to engage them in our upcoming holiday celebrations, to to embrace them in this culture, you know, understanding that these are people that are currently experiencing so much fear and loss of family members. So just, I would ask you to keep us in prayer. This is a terrible situation, and prayers for leadership, prayers for decisions that are being made, prayers for healing, prayers for safety. So just wanted to ask you all to join us in that as well.
Thank you, Connie. And I just want to just second that. All of the people on this call that are presenting, I'm just so grateful for everybody's hard work. And I know that we're making a big difference. And thank you, Susan. I just saw a comment come in on the chat. Susan is willing to help out in Tucson. Thank you. So just everybody that is offering help and offering kindness and care, we are so grateful for you. I know there's a lot that will still be going on for the next couple of months. We've decreased the frequency of our email updates out, but we'll continue to provide email updates as things are going on here at Lutheran Social Services to keep you all in the know of what we're doing and keep you all engaged. So just want to thank everybody again for coming on today. Any other last thoughts? Otherwise, I'll go ahead and in there.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take some time to do some more good. I just really appreciate you all so much. So we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.